Next question is from Lorna. Lorna says, if someone is telling you a story you've already heard, do you keep listening? I like this. This is a good social etiquette type question. I know many people who, number one, don't have the best memory of what stories they've told me, and number two, often don't care and want to keep telling the story. So typically what I'll do, I won't just ignore the person, although I can sometimes, because I know the story, I go into autopilot mode. And I'm like, yeah, when they stop talking, I already know what to say because they've told me this story before. Sometimes, though, I will say, oh, yeah, you've mentioned that before. And most people at that point will interrupt the story and move on to whatever point they wanted to illustrate with the story. Most people. I do know people, though, that they want to tell the story. It doesn't matter whether they've already told it. They'll say, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but when I blah, 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 and I'll go, oh, yeah, you did tell me that. They go, yeah, I mean, it was incredible because... And then they still tell me the entire story. What I'm sort of saying by telling you that you told the story already is you don't need to tell it again. We can just sort of move on, you know?
I do the exact same thing. I jump in, I will recall some aspect of the story and be like, oh yeah, then this, and this happened, and kind of involve my own take on it as well. But if someone else is telling a story where another friend is involved and you heard one take and now you want to hear another take, I love hearing to that.
Oh, that's a totally different thing.
It's very different because you want to hear their perspective on it, see what details get changed, who may have actually been at fault of something.
Absolutely.
That's quite entertaining.
That's a completely different thing. Now, if you're telling a story and someone tells you that you've already told it, do you stop telling the story?
Yeah, I mean, you're in damage control mode at that point. You got to move on.
I stopped telling the story.
You could make a different conclusion, perhaps, than you would normally make. Definitely change up the conversation at that point.
Is it rude to interrupt and say, oh, you did mention this to me before? You're not saying, shut up, you told me, right? I mean, you're saying, oh, you mentioned this story when we were doing X, Y, Z.
I don't think it's rude. I think it would be even more strange if the other person that's telling you a story realizes at some point that they're getting deja vu and that they've told you this before, and that you just awkwardly didn't say anything. I think that would be more strange.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, if later they find out that you didn't tell them that they actually had already told you that story before. I know people who don't care. They just want to hear themselves tell the story. They wouldn't mind, even if they knew that you told the story.
They're okay with it.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anything rude with interrupting in that way. I do it all the time. I don't know why lots of people in my life want to tell me the same stories over and over again. And I have no problem interrupting in that way.
You've told me this before.
Is that true? Yeah. I think I haven't actually, have I? See, now I'm doubting. Next question